Hello, I'm June Edwards, and this is Senior Topics for the week of the 8th of February. And so let's get right to it. This is a very, very, very busy week. Looking at the calendar, the Senior Topics calendar, the first thing is on the 7th, Charles Dickens was born in 1812. And it's been the Super Bowl, which just ended, which is why I'm recording now. On the 8th, the Boy Scouts Day, when they were founded back in 1910. So we'll talk a little bit about the history of the Boy Scouts. Also, author Jules Verne was born in 1828. He wrote Journey to the Center of the Earth and several other far looking ahead, visionary scientific adventures. He was one of the original science fiction authors. Then on February 9th, Hershey's Chocolate Company was founded in 1894. And who hasn't had a Hershey chocolate bar? Also, on the same date in 1870, the National Weather Service was established. And boy, have they helped save lives with their predictions about hurricanes and tornadoes and other different things happening with the weather. It's also known as Toothache Day. So hopefully nobody right now is having a problem with their teeth aching. February 10th is Umbrella Day. It is also the day for the ratification of the 25th Amendment in 1967 regarding presidential succession. And that amendment came in not that long ago, actually, after the terrible assassination of JFK. And I'm sure you all remember where you were at the time that happened. February 11th, Thomas Edison was born in 1847. And because that's his birthday, they also use February 11th for National Inventors Day. It's also White T-shirt Day and Don't Spill Over Spoiled Milk Day. Now, February 12th is a double header. It is the birthday of our 16th president, President Abraham Lincoln. And this year, it is also the celebration of Chinese New Year. And we are going to be beginning the year of the ox. And I'll try to have more information about that for you next week. It is also the day, February 12th, in 1959, when Barbie dolls first went on sale. And boy, has that been a wonderful business for the doll making company. February 13th, yet a different name day. And in 1635, on February 13th, the first public school was established. And do you know what February 14th is known for? I'm sure you do. It is Valentine's Day. And we will talk more about the history of that and some fun facts about Valentine's Day when we get there next week. So now that we've gone over so many different things, the powers that be really selected February for a lot of birthdays and celebrations and odd, crazy name days. And so it's got a really fun month to cover, especially with you in Senior Topics. So the first one we're going to look at is the Boy Scouts. And I particularly want to look at the information I found on the United States of America Boy Scouts. But the Boy Scouts were founded by a soldier over in England who really wanted to help young men get good training in outdoor skills, in survival skills, in good citizenship skills. And so he was the first one. that started it. But then after him came, and I'm trying to find the information here, the man that started it in the United States. See, I think it started around 1908, but by 1910, 1912, this American man was visiting in London, and there was some kind of an accident, and a young man was helping some elderly people cross the street and get past everything safely. And the American man was curious as to why this young English man was being so kind. And the young man said, I am a scout, and we take an oath that we will do a good deed, one good deed every day, and that we will help those who are not able to help themselves. And this is just part of what being a good scout is all about. And the American man was so impressed by that he took it back to the United States and started the United States Boy Scouts of America. And it was that way for a long, long, long time. I'm trying to see. Let's see. Was it William James? Sorry, I'm looking through my papers here and it's getting late at night. Okay. In the United Kingdom, a man named Robert Baden-Powell. He was the one that started the training for the young men, because around 1900, the country was in a state of crisis. Its global economic and military dominance were collapsing, and its moral and spiritual strength were all but gone. He wanted to create an efficient source of recruits for the defense of the British Empire, a character factory. And he found that a manual he had written would help. So he started, he looked at boys' brigades, woodcraft Indians, Sunday schools, and YMCAs, and he realized that there was a hunger for a group that would test discipline and stretch young men. So that's what he wanted to do. He saw that it could be not only a key to social utility, but also personal fulfillment for the boys. So the American who was over in England at that time was William Boyce. And it says an unknown scout came to his aid and some other people's aid and guided them to their destination safely. When the scout refused his offer of a tip and Boyce asked why, the boy explained he was a Boy Scout and he was doing his good deed for the day. Boyce was really intrigued, and he met with Mr. Baden-Powell, and then he took his ideas across the Atlantic and established the Boy Scouts of America. The year was 1910. Now it just spread like wildfire, and the boys can earn badges in all different fields of endeavors: rock climbing, camping, tying knots, citizenship challenges, and the highest level is the Eagle Scout. Well, a few years ago, there were legal challenges to let girls into the program, and so now the program is called Scouts. There is a Girl Scout group, which is a different organization from the Boy Scouts, but the Scout education now is less about schooling and more about facing a sequence of challenges. And that's what they do, and that's what they want to continue to do. And so they do all of that. And then there were some court decisions because there were some scoutmasters who were caught with child abuse. And so the national group of scouts, BSA Scouts, filed for bankruptcy, but that did not affect the scout troops at the local levels, which are still continuing on at this time in spite of the pandemic. And of course, everything's become virtual. They have to just meet online. And there are still people trying to become Eagle Scouts. It's amazing how many US presidents went through the Boy Scout program all the way up to Eagle Scouts, which is the highest level. And they have to do a project in the community. And we all know of different projects they've done, from gardens and cleaning out and rebuilding old historic buildings, and many, many things they've done to make our country and our communities better. Well, moving on from that, I'm looking at February 11, and that is National Inventors Day. And that day was chosen because of Thomas Edison's birthday. And what it's to celebrate is the genius behind invention, and look at the history of some of our most unusual designs. And when you look at it, we know that it's because of inventors like Mr. Otis that we can safely ride in an elevator. Because of Thomas Edison and other of his business partners, we can have a well-lit room at the flip of a switch. We can speak to someone on the other side of the world because of Alexander Graham Bell. We can efficiently pump lotion from a bottle. You know, many inventors go their whole lives without ever receiving recognition for their creations, while others are household names. We even study them in school. Nearly everything around us, I mean, lights and, metal and so many things. Uh, Curtains that we can draw back there, my blinds, microphone there from my husband's recording business. So many things are because of inventors. They are a progressive, forward-looking bunch. Where would we be without heart pacemakers, traffic signals, rubber bands, or coffee filters? Oh my goodness, that's my cue. And I know you're enjoying your coffee if you're watching this in the morning too, or maybe in the afternoon, so you don't get too sleepy and need to take a nap. So how should you observe National Inventors Day? Well, if you know an inventor, be sure and express your appreciation to them. If you are an inventor and you like to tinker with things, keep on tinkering. Keep seeking a cure, a fix, and improvements to daily life. Who knows, you may come up with the next great invention, and you are never, ever too old to try. Look at Benjamin Franklin. He was inventing almost to the day of his death. And I do want to talk some more about one of my favorite inventors, and that is Ben Franklin. Now, his birthday's in January, but we want to remember him on Inventors Day. He was born on January 17, 1706 in Boston, one of 17 children. He was a printer by trade, later a newspaper man. He became a politician. He became a postmaster, a storekeeper, a political commentary. He helped write the Declaration of Independence and the US Constitution. And that was in his elderly years. That was not when he was a young man. He was always a prominent citizen and always willing to help others. And as I talk to you about some of his inventions, did you realize that this man never, ever, ever took one single solitary dime for his inventions? He made the decision as a young man with his earlier inventions that he would never take out a patent. He wanted it to be shared for the public good. And he received so much enjoyment watching how it improved the lives of people in his community and eventually around the world. So let's look at some of them. When he was a young man, he loved to swim. Well, he loved to swim when he was in his 40s and 50s too. But when he was a young man, he wanted to be one of the fastest swimmers. So he invented a kind of paddle for his hands that would help him swim faster under the water. And then he got one for his feet as well. And that was when he was about 8 or 9 years old. But he had other things that he did too. He mapped the Gulf Stream. He invented swim fins. He invented the lightning rod. You know, that was a big, big problem, especially with churches and cathedrals in Europe. They were the first to really test his lightning rods because it used to burn down many, many blocks of the large cities in Europe. So they were very, very grateful for the lightning rod. He also invented the Franklin stove. You know, the forests were getting thinned out, and you had to go 100 miles to find wood for your fireplace, and nobody could do that. He invented a metal box. It was actually a cast iron box that you put in the middle of your floor, and you put your wood in it, and there was a control on it, a damper sort of, that went through. It would block the pipes. Here's the pipe, and this could control the airflow, and it helped decide how fast or slow the wood would burn so that your fire was not too hot or too cool. And it stopped sparks coming out and causing fires, and it kept children from falling into the fires. That was one of the major leading causes of death for small children before the Franklin stove was invented. He experimented with electrical current. He invented words like current, battery, electronics, and charges, positive and negative charges, and other words that entered the English language. He was an electrical scientist. He did not discover electricity, that's part of nature, but he certainly learned how to channel it. He did not invent the light bulb, but he did have a form of electrical lighting that worked in his own house. And he had bells, alarm bells, like a burglar alarm kind of thing. And sometimes when the bells were ringing, it would get to where his wife, Deborah, could hardly stand the sound of it. But she had to live with a lot of his eccentricities, I should say. Now, he invented other things too. One of the things he was asked before we were a United States, we were still a colony. And you know, when you would mail a letter, it was such a hit or miss proposition that you might send out 5 letters in 5 different directions and hope that somebody would carry it and it would get to its proper location. Well, what he did, he invented an odometer. It was a type of device that he put on the back wheel of his horse carriage. And after 100 clicks, it would turn over 1 mile or 1.67 kilometers. And he was able to map the most direct routes from one postmaster to the next postmaster. And he developed a system that made sending the mail highly efficient. And Ben Franklin was the first general postmaster in the American colonies back in the 1760s. He invented many other things. He invented a type of chair that you could sit in it, and it had its own reading light, and it had a clock that only took 3 years to run the clock, so he didn't have to get up to check the time. If he wanted another book off one of his really high bookshelves, because his went all the way to the ceiling, then he invented a long arm which attached to the chair. He could turn the seat of the chair into a step ladder, stand on the step ladder, And with the long arm, he could reach up. It had two fingers that could grasp the book. Pretend this is a book here. He could grasp the book and bring it back down and still be in the area of the chair. You know, he invented many incredible things. When he got older, his eyesight was starting to fail. He was both nearsighted and farsighted. So what he did is he took lenses. Somebody else had invented the glasses. He took a lens from a farsighted and he took a lens from a nearsighted, and he put them together. So the top half was for farsightedness and the bottom half was for nearsightedness. That's incredible. Need to pause for a minute. Excuse me. I could say a lot more about his inventions. Maybe you know about some of his other inventions. He also, excuse me, he also invented something called the harmonica, which plays beautiful music. I really do need to get a recording of that and play that for you one of these times. It sounds like the cross between a harpsichord and a spinet, which is a type of piano. And he did invent so many wonderful things. I want to talk a little bit more about electricity and Benjamin Franklin. In 1752, he did venture out into a summer storm, and New England has some doozies with lightning. He had a kite, a key, and a daring hypothesis, which was an educated guess. He managed to track the lightning out of the clouds and retain the charge in a copper key attached to the wet kite. And what happened was he then had a cable that ran to the ground and grounded it. He did have the hypothesis that lightning was indeed electrical, and he proved it. Another discovery about electricity was his assertion that there's two forms of electrical charge, positive and negative, defined by the pressure of the current. His discoveries advanced the study of electrical energy. So we know he did not invent it, but he did a lot in using it. And did you know that he actually, before he knew about grounding the cable, he himself was electrocuted and knocked flat to the ground and knocked out. And they thought he had died, but he came back. It just startled him and knocked him out. So he learned very quickly that you have to ground the current and take it to the ground. It added to his prestige as an eccentric man, but he also learned using electricity how to make many things that benefited other people. He was definitely an advanced thinker for his time. Now, I told you that February 12th is known for two different things. It's the celebration of Chinese New Year, and we don't have time to go into the background of all of that this time. I'm going to try to do that next week. You know, I have so much I want to share with you, and I wish I could get your thoughts and hear what you think about all these things. I have to rely on your activity directors, and I so look forward to the day when we can be back together again, face to face. But I did have one more advanced thinker, very smart politician, really, that I wanted to talk to you about, and that was Abraham Lincoln. He was an unusual man because most of the presidents of that day came from the eastern seaboard states. He was over in Illinois, although he spent most of his adult life in Illinois, but he was actually born in a state next to it. And he spent his first 16 years in a different state. And then he moved to Illinois. There's about 3 or 4 states that claim him, actually. He was born in a log cabin. He shot up to a very tall height at a young age. He was a practical joker. He would take one of his younger brothers, turn him upside down after he'd muddied his feet, and have him walk on the ceiling and make footprints. And then he'd have him down when his mother wasn't around. Then he'd call to his mother and say, Ma, Ma, what's that unusual creature? What are those tracks up on the ceiling? And how are we going to get them clean? And she was used to his joking ways. He had such a good sense of humor. He tried to become a lawyer. He taught himself how to read, basically, and he read by the firelight in the fireplace. And they were too poor. They never had a Ben Franklin stove in those days. Later, he became a lawyer. He had a lawyer business, and he had a tall hat. He didn't care about people making fun of his height. He had a disease that actually elongated him and made him even taller than he might have otherwise been. And that disease did not have a name at that time. And I forget right now what you call it. So you have to ask me that one later. But he became a politician, used his wits, and he became a good deal maker, like some of our other presidents. And, when he became president, that was almost by a fluke. There were 2 other candidates duking it out. And then there was a very close tie. So they tried several times to decide who it was going to be. And then they decided they better get a 3rd candidate. And guess who got it? Was Abraham Lincoln. He turned out to be one of the greatest presidents of all time. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862, freeing all the slaves in the southern states. And then it was codified. He signed the amendment that was the abolishment of slavery in our U.S. Constitution. I have an article here. Actually, it's a story. It was called Meeting Father Abraham in Washington, D.C., February 1864. And Lois Bryan Adams worked as a clerk for the recently established Department of Agriculture, and she wrote about a White House reception and a fundraising fair held at the patent office. And she wanted to write about how she got to meet Abraham Lincoln. I'm just going to read some excerpts from it. It's just a fascinating look at what life was like 160 years ago. Saturdays are public reception days at the White House from 11 until 3 o'clock. All who choose can go and pay their respects to the president and his lady, pass through the room and conservatories, and go on their way. 1 mile west of the Capitol, directly through the heart of the city, stands the presidential mansion. It is Saturday, the 6th of February, a chilly, cloudy day with a lowering sky threatening rain. But let us go. We turn our face to the east, up Pennsylvania Avenue. Look a moment. Does it seem possible that we could ever work our way through that thronging, crowding mass, pouring down the broad pavement in one incessant stream? You say no. Oh, it is so full, crowded to suffocation. Maybe the sidewalk will be better. We go on the fashionable north side of the avenue, but glance across. The other side is nearly as crowded as this. Soldiers are here too, in companies and singly, in every style of uniform, and most gathered in knots and platoons about the hotel and restaurant doors. And then they go up the hill past the corner of the Treasury, and they keep going. And then it says, today guards armed with swords, mounted on handsome black horses, sit facing each other just within the gates at each end of the drive, and two more are stationed directly in front of the house. I believe that's the White House. Foot guards are at all times pacing up and down the pavement before the house. Let us go up the steps and enter the open doors. Here is a mother plainly dressed, leading her little boy of 10, to whom she is telling the story of Abraham Lincoln's youth. In the vestibule, a waiter stands, motioning with his hand the way for visitors to go. Excuse me. The mother and child pass on. We follow. There is no crowd now. Nobody going in just now but us. Just inside the door of the blue room stands the president between two young men. Between these two, the mother leads her boy. The president takes her hand in one of his, places the other on the boy's brown curls, says some kindly words to both, and they pass on. The same hand takes mine. The eyes look down as kindly. He bows low and says, "How do you do?" in a tone that seems to demand a friendly reply. But no reply comes. My heart is on my lips, but there is no shape or sound of words. You ever been stage struck like that? It's embarrassing. In one glance at that worn yet kindly face, I read a history that crushes all my power of speech. And before I am fairly conscious that I have touched the hand and looked into the eyes of our honored Father Abraham, I find myself on the opposite side of the room. Doubtless, if he did have a thought about me, it was this: what a stupid creature who does not even know enough to give a name or answer a civil question. 6 months I had been in Washington without seeing the president. 6 months of anxious waiting for friends whose long promised someday never seemed to draw any nearer, till at last, tired of patience and friends altogether, I had gone alone. And that was the way I met him. I who had honored him from the first moment he put his hand so firmly to the helm of our mighty ship of state, to steer her through the perilous sea of blood and strife of our Civil War, and then proclaim freedom to all in the name of God and humanity. I, the child of a state so loyal and true to her very heart's core, that her veteran troops, almost to a man, have repledged themselves to stand by him till the fiery ordeal is over. Who had sung for him, knowing he didn't have time to sing for himself, and had longed for the day to come when I might speak to him as well. And that was the way I did it. It is late, for it has taken at least 2 hours walking on the streets, to say nothing of numerous advances and retreats, up and down the sweep of the semicircle, to get resolution up to the point of accomplishing even this. There is but time to glance about us and then retire with the already departing crowd. And there they go. And she sees in the center of the room on her way out a white marble table supporting a vase of rare flowers, and besides it stands Mrs. Lincoln, now in animated conversation with the ladies and gentlemen gathered about her. We need not speak to her. She will never know we've been in the room. Many others will come in the same way, only to look and go. Another time we shall have confidence to pay her the respect due her station. It is a general remark that Mrs. Lincoln at her receptions and parties is always dressed with the most perfect taste, always richly and elegantly, and never overdressed. Today she was robed in purple velvet, and she has an elegant point lace collar fastened by a knot of some dainty white material, in the center of which glistens a single diamond at her throat. And then it goes on and describes her. but the president, with his attendants, has already left the room. The guests are fast departing. The conservatory doors are closed. We pass out with the rest and make a resolution to make better use of the next reception day at the White House. What a lovely story, and what a kind man he was. All the suffering and losing two of his children, one in the battle and one to fever. And then his wife, after he died, she lost her mind and was mentally ill for most of the rest of her life. And her family took care of her, and a price that they paid. Well, this is how we're going to end for this week. Valentine's Day will be coming towards the end of this week, and we will discuss that next week. So I see that my time is up. Whoa, seems like we just started. I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye, everybody. Take care. I know I have to switch hands when I wave. See you next week. Stay well.